have friends and strangers who come to me and tell me, Mo, that they grew up with Alice. They were latchkey kids. They came home from school. They watched it in the afternoon on reruns, and that Alice was the mother they wished they'd had. And I hear this and I think, wow, that never occurred to me, that she was such a good mother, that she was attractive to young people in that way because she listened. I mean, it occurred to me that we were doing the right thing by approaching her as somebody who was trying to be a good mother.
You're talking about the effect that the role had on other people, but the role had a real effect on you.
The role had a huge effect on me. Here I was, an actor playing a single mother, a working woman, a blue and pink collar working woman.
What is pink collar?
Well, it's the feminized version of blue collar.
Oh, got it. Okay, all right. Yeah, I didn't.
So I like to call it that because her uniform was pink. And I felt really challenged by and encouraged to look at what those issues would be for story ideas. Here you're going to do a sitcom, 26 episodes a year. What are you going to talk about? You're in a diner. Can't talk about food all the time. You got a kid. He's 10 and a half years old. You gave up your life. You drove across the country. You want to be a singer. You're on your way to California. You're in Phoenix. You're working for a guy who doesn't get it. And another guy comes in and asks for a job as a waiter, and I find out that he's getting more money than I'm getting. And I go to Mel and I say, we quit. Yeah. And the girls go, we? She quits for everybody. We quit. And so those stories came out of awareness of what was going on for working women and single mothers. And not to drop a name, but I had met Gloria Steinem years before that, and I called her up when I got the job of Alice. And I said, I'm going to do this job. I'm going to represent a woman. And it turned out to be 80% of all the women who work in this country.
Meaning 80% of working women were single?
80% of all working women in this country are Alice.
Uh-huh.
That's who she represented.
Right.
Whether they're single or not, they are still, we're up to 80 cents on the dollar now. And that was 1976, right. And now we're at whatever this is, 2020. So I asked Gloria if she could recommend some ideas, some writers to me who could maybe participate in the development of ideas about the issues of working women.
And you ended up, though, bringing your message off camera, right? In live, you would speak to crowds.
Yeah.
When you were invited to speak to groups, were you nervous?
So I got invited to speak to groups of people about equal rights amendment and equal pay, and I was terrified. I'd never spoken in front of organizations before. I'd never spoken in front of people before except to get up and sing. That was my speaking. And so I was invited by the National Commission on Working Women, which was a non-governmental commission. I was invited to Washington, and they gave me an award because they had done a survey, a magazine survey in 1978. And the question was, who do you think best represents working women on television? And the answer came back in legion numbers, Alice. Wow. So I was invited to get this award by the Broadcast Association, and they gave awards to documentary film and radio producers who were making programs about working women. And so suddenly I was politicized. Suddenly I was brought into the mainstream of the issues of working women, and they said, will you go to Oklahoma? Will you go to California? Will you go to Iowa? Will you speak? And then it culminated in, will you go to Washington and speak at the Washington Monument? There's a big labor rally. And I thought, how do I do this? And they gave me somebody who could help me with facts and write speeches for me. And I decided the best way to do it was to wear my Alice uniform and just show up as Alice, because people knew who she was and they knew what she stood for. So it wasn't Linda Lavin, the celebrity. You know, I wasn't hiding, but I was expressing myself through her.
That's a really interesting move, though, because I think a lot of people would have thought that the right thing to do is the opposite, right? And say, you know, but you were committed enough to the character that, right? You felt like the character could deliver the message better.
She would speak. She would show up. all you have to do sometimes, you know, in a situation that's critical, is show up and say, what can I do? How can I help? What do you need? And people would come up and say, you are my mother. I'm living this life. And you were talking about financial issues. You were talking about health insurance. You were talking about child care. You were talking about equal pay for the equal quality of work.